Okay, so Brian the Invisible Boy is who, and that's great. So what do you think is the what? What's the problem? That's the question. And we're going to write that one in purple. So what's the problem? Oh, you know what? Why don't we do where first? So let's do where, which is green. So where's our story happening?
At school.
So you're going to find some evidence of that. Great. And then you can just write school on our paper in green.
Perfect evidence right there.
That's actually pretty good evidence, yeah. Miss Carl already has trouble. Yep. Because it's talking about in the classroom. Okay, so school, and then really, do you think we have a when for this one? Like a time that it's placed in?
No.
I kind of didn't think we had a when. Sometimes the when matters more, but I don't think it matters that much in this time.
No.
Okay, so let's maybe just skip over that one. But so let's move on to what. And the question for what is purple. And the question is, what is the problem? So what's the big problem in our story?
He's invisible.
Is he really invisible?
No.
So what's the problem?
People don't really see him.
What's another word that we can use for see?
Ignore.
Do they kind of ignore him? I think that you could write that. I was kind of thinking they don't notice him. He just is kind of there, so he feels invisible.
When you circle the two letters that make the one sound. Why is it so important to notice? Yeah, that's what that's at. They say E, so what word is that? Someone just decided, we gotta make sure we spell seat.
Oh, and why'd you pick that piece of evidence?
Well, you don't get it school. Do you understand what you're saying? Do they? I wrote.
Because it sort of shows that they sort of like ignore him because they just look at him and look away.
Okay, so you think that maybe this line helps us kind of understand that he might feel left out? Because that's when we were reading and you said, oh, that's so sad. Because that's when we noticed that, yeah, he's getting left out. And you know what else I thought? Well, it says, can you see Brian? So that kind of makes it start us off thinking, why are they asking me if I can see Brian? Do you know what I mean? That's what the first line is. Can you see Brian, the invisible boy? Even Mrs. Carlotti has trouble noticing him in her classroom. Do you think that can be maybe some double evidence going on? I think so. So maybe just put like a little dot or something next to it. And then what do you want to write down for what's our problem on our paper?
I think this would be good evidence too.
Oh, you know what? I like that a lot. Only Brian is left still waiting and hoping.
And
That word hoping really makes me feel kind of sad for him, you know? Oh, and that line that says he wasn't invited. Absolutely. That's great. So what do you want to write down to kind of write one sentence to kind of talk about our problem? We sure did. So much evidence going on. All right. So for what's the problem? If I were to ask you, so what's the problem? What would you tell me?
They ignore him.
Sure. Okay. So maybe like the kids at school ignore Brian. And then is the problem that they ignore him, or is there a little bit more? How does he feel?
Sad.
It kind of makes him feel really sad, I think.
It's when a picture, and it looks like the won't do anything, but when you turn the page, it's happening.
Like a flip flop. What if you don't have time to do that?
They ignore him and make him sad. Great. Okay. So then let's think about our next one, which is why? So why is this a problem? So we kind of answered that a little bit together already. But why is that a problem that all the kids at school ignore him? Why does it matter?
But you had to spell. Yeah, so what if you spelled it A wrong? What if you're outside at recess?
I go inside and I tell and I get the name
Okay. But it's so important that you learn how to spell and spell right so you can communicate with people. It's tougher because we don't always just communicate with our voice. Sometimes we have to communicate with our writing. Straight that. Sometimes they don't. So.
So what kind of evidence are you looking for? Oh, was that what you're looking for?
Okay. So today, can you tell me, we're going to be working with these constant lists, but I gotta make sure that this one is so this one okay. Well,
Oh, you know what? I think this is part of the problem, but do you think the next line really is a good example? You were so close. That's the part I think you were looking for. So Brian looks at the floor and he wishes it would swallow him up, and that's a really descriptive feeling, right? Have you ever felt like that before?
But I had to start him.
Oh yeah, no, you were right there. That's why I was just like, hey, peek at that next line.
I had to start, but I just
So good. I'm glad that you came across it. So what kind of sentence would you use to kind of summarize that? Why is this a problem? Why is the fact that all the kids ignore him a problem?
He tries to get in with his friends, but they're like, I don't like you.
What do they say? They don't like you? Or do they they're just like, oh, we already have partners, so. Because are they ever really, like, mean to him? Do they say, like, gross, Brian, we don't like you? Do they ever say that to him? No, it's kind of like their behavior says, like, we don't want to be your friend, right? Have you ever had someone at school act like that? Where they're kind of like, they show you with, like, how they act, not with their words, that they don't want to be your friends. Unfortunately, I think that happens sometimes. So I think that's kind of more like what it is. It's like those little things, you know? So we're looking for those little details. So what do you think we can write for why is this the problem? If you tell me kind of what you're thinking, maybe I can help you write it. Oh, let's look at this one more time. So the question is, why? I think you're just saying another way that it shows, I think you're writing down like your evidence. But the question is, why is it a problem that they leave him out?
Don't let him let them in their group.
Why does that matter?
Because at showing, they ignore him and make him sad.
Oh. That's what I was looking for. Because why is that bad? Why is that a problem for him? Because it makes him sad. So he feels left out and he's sad. I think that's why it's a problem, is because it makes him feel bad and left out. What do you think?
I know, that's what I was going to say. They don't let them. What?
Okay, do you see what I mean though? Because you say they don't let him in the group,
And they don't.
in their group, but that's not. Is that why it's a problem? Because we're really trying to find the reason it's a big
I
problem.
was going to add, and that's what it's saying.
Oh, okay. I'm just trying to make you think about it. Because sometimes I think you just write down the evidence.
I know, but you don't know if I'm going to add something.
I couldn't tell.
Yeah. See?
Oh, so what does it say now?
They don't let him in their group, period.
Mhm.
So it makes him lonely and sad.
I think that's pretty good. So our last one that we're going to do is our orange one. Work through it. Work through it, rocking it. All right, I think I have orange in here. I do. All right, so the last question is how. So the question is, really, how is the problem solved? What fixes it?
Okay.
So tell me before you look for the evidence. What fixes the problem?
He finally is able to be in a group and make friends.
And why is that? Who does that for him?
Oh, Amelia.
Is it Emilio? Think about who's always inviting him over. Let's look at this one.
It's,
What's his name?
Justin.
So I think maybe right here it says that. Come on, Emilio, let him work with us. And he says, oh, okay, I guess. You know? So he's really trying to bring him in and help him be a friend. And then, is that how he meets all his friends? And he doesn't feel left out anymore? Why'd you pick that one?
Okay, are you ready for the first one? So, the pen is for writing words and the marker is for writing.
Sam, why'd you pick that one?
Because, they, okay, Emilio, it's like, it's sort of like Justin jumps in, Emilio says okay, and then Emilio jumps in and is now really nice to Brian.
Right. So how was the problem solved? Because you're exactly right. But how would you write it?
Teacher. Awesome. Let's try. Ready? Teacher. Stop it. Yeah, you're stopping. Do it together. Ready? Not just with all two. Good. Chocolate. Come with the word. You will be the word. I'm not big. The elbow.
So let's look at what you're writing here. Justin makes Emilio double think about what he said when he says, okay. So later on, Emilio jumps in. Oh, you know what? I think we can say this a little bit shorter. Let's try to summarize it a little bit, because I think you're just rewording your evidence again. Right? You're just writing down what the book was, but we're trying to think about what it actually means. So, how was it solved? You don't have to cross it out. It's not wrong. It's not wrong. It's just too many words, because we're trying to make it easier for us, you know.
Alright, and how did we work that?
Well, how do you think? What's the big thing that fixes it?
He finally is able to get in a group.
And why is he able to get in that group?
Because he asked.
Did he ask to get in the group?
Yeah.
Let's see. So who fixed it? Or what fixed it? What action?
Justin.
And what did he do that helped?
He proved Emilio wrong.
Was Emilio really wrong?
Sort of.
Did he ever say, like, no, he can't work with us? He was just like, all right. Like, look, let's read this part again. So it says, back in class, Mrs. Carlotti asked the kids to team up in 2s or 3s for a special project. The kids scurry around the room to pair off. Brian heads towards Justin. I'm already with Justin, said Emilio. Find someone else. Oh yeah, you're right. He does say that. I forgot about that line. So, find someone else. So he does tell him to kind of move on. And so Brian kind of looks at the floor, and then he feels really bad. And what does Justin do that fixes it? That makes them start to be friends?
Come on, Emilio. We're only a group of 2.
And he says, you know what? He invites him into his group. He says, you know what? We can have 3. Let's make 3. So what action was it that fixed the problem?
Justin. Emilio.
Oh, I think this is Emilio, and I think this is Justin. Because they showed Justin right here, and that was this conversation with Justin. When he was drawing the chalk. So what do you think? What was the big action that fixed it? You're right there. I just wanted you to make it one sentence instead of rewriting this part of the story.
Justin is a good friend and convinces Emilio to let them be a group of 3.
I think that'd be good. Do you think that's what fixes it? Mm-hmm. I think so. I think that's a nice short way to say it.
The P, let's try that one more time. What's our He is the concept.
Okay. So, mic drop. That's like what that reminded me of. You know, like when people do that when they drop the mic. That's what that reminded me of. So, Justin is a good friend and convinces Emilio that they can be a group of 3. So let's read over all of ours and see if we think that that's pretty much what the story's about. So it's about Brian, the invisible boy at school.
Brian, the invisible boy. Boy is at school. They ignore him and make him sad. They don't let him in their group, so it makes him lonely and sad. Justin, as a good friend, convinces Amelia that they can be a group of friends.
I think that's pretty much what happened in our story. What do you think?
Yeah.
A mic drop again. Oh my goodness. Okay, so then the next thing that I want us to look at is a little bit more of some of the vocabulary in there, because there were some words that I think we should explore a little bit more to make sure we've got what's going on. So let's pull our story back. Oh, are you having marker problems? They're new markers, so they're a little bit stiffer, I think. All right, so let's see. There we go. All right, so let's see. We've got the first word that I wanted to talk about is the word invisible.
I know what invisible is.
I know you know what that means. but
Like Jack.
but let's kind of.
He goes,
Oh, he does. Well, he does a lot of different stuff. Are you talking about like The Incredibles? Yeah, he is.
like in that like.
He like disappears into like the. You got it. That's exactly what it does. Okay, so I wanted to think about breaking apart the word a little bit. So how can you know, what does invisible mean first? What does that mean? What does invisible mean?
I don't know that part when Jack chases a skunk with his eyes.
I do remember that part. It was a good movie.
So fun.
It was fun.
And a skunk came around with like. And she came for shots. And Jack goes.
I remember. I watched the movie too.
Incredible calls out for Jack, and he comes rushing with his laser eyes, and he shoots him right in the top neck. And in that part where Mr. Incredible holds Jack, and he goes,
I remember. All right, back to our vocabulary. So, in your words, what does the word invisible mean? How would you say what it means?
when you can't see anybody, maybe?
So, something you can't see?
Yeah.
Okay, so how can we tell that that's what that word means? What in our word tells us that? Do you see maybe a word that you know what it means in there?
Invisible.
So what?
Visible.
Oh, visible? What is that word? Visible? So visible means that you can see it. And what about this part of that word? The in part. What does that mean?
You can't.
Well, in at any, it can also, like, it's kind of like un. It can mean not. So it means not visible. Like you can't see it. So, do you think that this word is, what part of speech do you think it is? What part of speech? Do you know what that means? Like adjective, a verb, a noun? What is invisible? Do you use it to describe something? Like Jack, the invisible baby? So, we can write, what do you think? What do you think we can write as our definition for invisible? Here you go. What do you think we can write as our definition for invisible? Because we talked about what it means, the different parts. So it means in, which is not, and then visible, which is...
Your turn.
Visible, which is...
Not.
Well, what does visible mean?
Invisible.
Okay, but what does visible mean?
You can see it.
Okay, so what does invisible mean?
You can't see it. Decimal.
Them right there. You know another word that I saw in there? The word volume. Did you see that one in there? It's at the very beginning.
Volume.
Volume. Let's see. Nathan has a problem with Mrs. Carlotti. Oh, sorry. Nathan has a problem with what Mrs. Carlotti calls volume control. So what does that mean? You don't know?
Audio. Sound.
Oh, audio. I think you said I don't know, but audio. That makes sense. Okay, so volume is like audio. So maybe how loud something is. How loud something is. Okay, and then what about scaling? I saw that one in there too. Actually, you know what word I want to talk about first because I know that you didn't know this word. You ready? You want me to point it out for you? There's a word you didn't know in here. I know it. It is this word. That's someone's name. You don't have to know that. It's this word. What word is that? Well, let's look at the parts of it. Do you know what inter means? Let's write it first. So, how do I spell it?
I-R-T-A-L-A-C-T-I-C.
Okay, so let's kind of look at the different pieces of this word like we do that sometimes. So let's look. Oh, you know what? Instead of in, let's look at this whole part. Inter. What does that mean? Like in the word like interact?
Go.
Does it mean go? Think about the word interact.
Enter to something.
That's enter. Enter is different. What is inter? Inter means to like collide. So like in between.
Oh yeah. Collide.
Right, or like in between. Kind of. It's like inter. And then, do you know what about this word? Just this part of it.
Do you think that you met these goals? Do you think we were D, silent E?
What about that?
Give me a check right here.
Do you know what that kind of looks like?
Oh, galaxy.
Intergalactic.
Galaxy.
So what does intergalactic mean? What do you think?
What did you say? Enter?
That's how you say it. Intergalactic. So like intergalactic. So the accent.
Intergalaxy.
Oh, think about it. So it goes inter, like that.
What do you mean by enter?
Inter, like interacting. So like going in between.
Interact galaxy.
So we live in a galaxy, but think about another galaxy.
I'll forget it. What was it? E-J.
Interactive galaxy.
Kind of. Let me look up maybe a better. I don't think I'm explaining it very well. It made sense in my brain, but maybe it's not making sense in your brain. So let's look up inter. Inter.
And the crab is going to be my friend.
The crab's gonna be your friend. What are you gonna name it?
Inter root word.
Crabby?
So it means between. Like in between. So it means between galaxies. Right, so you see that word galaxy in there, kind of galactic. So that accent is on galactic, on that A. Remember how we talked about accents? Yeah, well, come back. So it means inter, like between galaxies.
That makes sense.
Yeah, well, most words that seem really hard and like really long, you can actually break apart and they make complete sense. They tell you what they mean. You know that? So let's look. Let's read this again and see if it makes sense again. This line with intergalactic in it that you didn't know what it was before.
And what did we say?
Read it again, see if it makes sense. Oh, intergalactic. Can you try that? It's right here.
Between galaxy batteries?
Why batteries?
What?
Why are you saying batteries?
Because it's galactic batteries.
Intergalactic, so like between galaxies, battles.
Oh.
So let's read it again.
Between battles.
So it's like a battle between
battles.
galaxies. So let's read our line again and see if it makes more sense this time. So he draws, come look at it. He draws fire-breathing dragons scaling tall buildings and space aliens locked in intergalactic battles. Does that make more sense now?
Yeah.
So he like,
battles.
what kind of drawings does he like to do? What do you think? Like really?
Fantasy.
Yeah, it sounds like fantasy to me too. That's what I think. So it sounds like he really likes to think about like some wild, dream up some wild things about dragons and intergalactic space wars. Okay, what about the word scaling? Right here. Scaling tall buildings. What does that mean?
Extremely
Extremely?
long.
So let's see if that makes sense.
That's what it means.
So he draws fire-breathing dragons extremely tall buildings?
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense.
What else?
Well, scaling is a verb. That means it's an action. So someone is scaling. Someone's doing that action. So what does that mean? If they're scaling a tall building, what are they doing to that building? Uh-huh, you're right.
Climbing.
Yeah, scaling like climbing. Because like he's drawing fire-breathing dragons scaling or climbing up tall buildings. Does that make more sense? Mm-hmm. So there's not really a trick to that one. That's just kind of how it is. The last one that I want to look at today is the word scurry. What does that word mean, scurry? It was in your highlighted section here.
What?
For scaling, do you remember? Or not scaling, sorry, scurrying.
Scurrying.
Mm-hmm. It's right over here. The kids scurry around the room to pair off. What does that word mean then, scurry? Is that, what kind of word is that?
Right.
Is it like sprint, or is it just kind of like quick, like moving around? It's not like running.
Scatter.
Kind of, it's kind of like scatter. But like, it just means like moving really quickly to find partners. Because whenever your teacher says, hey, we're going to partner off, does everyone just kind of sit there, or do they like, hey, I'm going to be your partner, I'm going to be your partner? Right, it's kind of like chaos, right? So when we hear that word scurry, whenever I hear the word scurry, I think about like really quick little feet. Like scurrying around, like really chaos. Mm-hmm, like everyone's kind of excited and kind of freaking out a little bit. That's kind of what I think about.
Yeah,
So what kind of energy do you think is in that room? Yeah. So when they say the kids scurry around the room to pair off and Brian kind of heads towards Justin, what kind of movement do you think that is with scurry? Like in the room, everyone's kind of crazy and quickly. Yeah, quickly and kind of crazy. So does that kind of help us understand maybe how Brian is as a person a little bit more now that we understand those words a little bit more? Mm-hmm. And the only one, I think, the other one that you didn't know was bulgogi, but that's because that's just like a type of food that you've never heard of. But we know what that is now. It's a Korean barbecue beef. So I was wrong. It's Korean. I couldn't remember which one it was. Oops.
At least you went in a real school.
Well, I'm wrong in real school all the time, too. But it's okay, because I fixed it.
I know, but you'd have been in big trouble if they figured out.
Not have been in big trouble.
Yeah, you would if you were at a school. Yeah, you'd get fired.
I would. Okay, the last thing we're gonna do. Last thing. Are you ready? Last thing, and then I won't make you do anything else
Why?
because I know you're almost done.
Oh no.
You're gonna write a summary.
No!
But you already have all the pieces. Look,
But I found you in this stuff.
you already.
Find all of that.
Okay, then all you have to do is combine them. So
Okay
we'll tear-
then.
Oh, don't do that. That is lazy. I'm not taking that lazy stuff. All right. So I'll let you look at this and help you write your summary with it. And once you write your summary, you can be all just done.
Alright, and then what will you do?
Then we can be done.
And then what?
Then we'll be done. That'll be it. The end. Ta-da. Complete. I can't really think of any more words. So remember how we talked about last time, thinking about the big problem first? Okay, talk about who first. You know what?
An invisible
I'll let you do
boy
it.
at school.
I won't correct you. You do it. You know you're good. I was just trying to remind you to keep things in mind. Not to correct you.